Welcome to Ask Ms. ERP. The topic of this video is what is special about ERP security. Hello everyone, Ms. ERP here. If you clicked on this topic, you should get an award for bravery because ERP security is not something that would interest many, exciting though it is. The one thing that we can all agree on is that ERP security is complex. It is not usually a case of simply granting access to the application to individual users. And since money is typically involved, there are a lot of controls that should be in place, usually defined with security. Just getting into the ERP will require a logon user ID. If you have a cloud ERP, I would highly recommend that you implement some kind of two-factor authentication or other control through a single sign-on tool. If you consider that your cloud ERP is accessible through an internet URL, it is advisable to put some protection on that initial entry layer. I will leave network, endpoint, perimeter, and data security to the cybersecurity experts and focus on the ERP itself. Assuming that you have the entry point under control, then the fun and games can start with the ERP Application Access. A good rule of thumb is to always follow the principle of least privilege. In other words, only grant access to a user to the bare minimum of what is needed for them to do their job. You may get some pushback on this, particularly from folks that are used to having admin rights. You can talk to them about having admin in test, but their production access should be minimized. This is not only to protect the company's ERP data, but also to protect the individuals. Not having access to do something means that inadvertent mistakes are not possible. I have a horrible story about when I accidentally deleted the general ledger, but I digress.
Oh no!
As your ERP is your financial system, you may have to concern yourself with SOX Controls. SOX stands for the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, implemented in 2002 in an attempt to have stricter financial governance laws to help protect shareholders, employees, and the public from accounting errors and fraudulent financial practices. Auditors, accountants, and corporate officers became accountable for the new set of rules. Even if you are not a public company, these controls are a good idea to ensure that your books are accurate and that no one is doing something that they should not be. One of the most common controls is to ensure that you have an appropriate segregation of duties. What this means is that your ERP security should be set up in such a way so that one person does not have access to do something that they should not. The most common example is that an individual should not have access to set up vendors and also be able to enter payments. Too easy to set up a friend as a vendor and start paying them. If you don't have enough people in your company to split these duties, you can put in a post control, such as a report that someone else could check on a regular basis. There are many ways to make sure that ERP access is appropriate, and I will dig deeper into security controls in a future video. One of the challenges with most ERP security is that it is usually done in layers. You may have a way to control which data a user can see or update, which is handy if you have multiple legal entities and staff in one entity that should not be accessing the data in another entity. On top of that, there are usually roles that can be assigned, such as accounts payable manager or purchase requisitioner. These roles grant access to multiple individual programs, and if you assign many roles to a single individual, you may inadvertently grant access to someone to something that you should not. You may also be able to group these roles together into a super role, which might be useful to be able to maintain security more easily. Another consideration is read versus update access. Some ERPs provide an easy way to provide read-only access, while others do not. Obviously, a read-only role has less risk associated with it than an update role, but you still need to think about what data can be accessed, even if it is only just to see it. The big point here is that ERP security is complex. In my experience, you will need at least one individual who is an expert in how to set the security up and how to be able to troubleshoot any access issues. It is also recommended that you have an annual security review, where supervisors must approve their employees' access. Also, the roles or super roles should have an owner assigned, and that owner should periodically review who has been granted access to that role. That owner should understand the ramifications of the access granted and be accountable for the data that is being accessed by a specific role. This is particularly important for what are typically called elevated access or administrator-type roles. This type of access is considered privileged and should be well monitored. If your ERP system is new to you, it is likely that you will need to rework your security, possibly a few times, to get it right. By right, I mean that all users have just the access that they need, and it is easy to grant, remove, or review the access at any time. And of course, vendor updates might change the game and generate a cause for a rework. Lastly, it is very important to remove user access when someone leaves your company or changes roles. Hopefully, there is an overall security management process at your company that the ERP can leverage, but in my experience, all companies could improve their offboarding processes. Leaving those user IDs around could present a large risk to your company. Never mind that you might inadvertently be causing yourself licensing issues, which I will cover in the next video. I hope that this high-level overview helps to explain why ERP security needs to be looked after carefully. This concludes the What is Special about ERP Security topic. There is a link on askmizerp.com to email me to ask questions or suggest topics for future videos, or you can just add comments on any YouTube video. Please subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and see you on the next video.